Tokenization is back on the menu. Real world assets is back in discussion. That is all you're hearing about in mainstream media. And on today's episode, we're going to dive deep into Chainlink, talk about its importance in the cryptocurrency market and space in general. We'll dive into Stellar Lumens, going deep on how they are positioning themselves as the next blockchain to boom. And then we will finish out with some news on Hedera HBAR and what the foundation is doing to make an impact in the crypto space. All right, let's dive in. Let's start off with talking about Chainlink's adoption update. This week, there were 7 integrations of the Chainlink standard across 5 services in 6 different chains: Arbitrum, Base, BNB Chain, BOB, Ethereum, and Solana. New integrations include Dex Lab. This is the OG token creation platform on Solana. Then you got Flex Perpetuals, that's trading. You have the human layer of AI, which is public AI. Then we also have Solve Protocol, a decentralized Bitcoin reserve solution. And River is building on-chain abstraction stablecoin systems. World Liberty, this is the Trump platform and token via him and his family. And then you have Yes No Error, which is an AI play again. So AI, DeFi, Bitcoin reserves, DeFi, public AI, and then you got perpetuals trading right there. So if you look at it as 3 CCPI integrations, a CRE, data streams, price feeds, and proof of reserves. This is all the services that Chainlink is providing and bringing to the table for the cryptocurrency industry. Now, I saw this post and I thought it was very important to check out and look at. So here we have all of the places that Chainlink is working with, or organizations, and where the Link token will be used. So you got the U.S. Department of Commerce. We'll dive deeper into that one. SWIFT, that's the banking system. DTCC, not quite sure. We got to dive deeper on that one. BNY Mellon Bank, JP Morgan Bank, U.S. Bank, Euroclear, ANZ Bank, State Street, Invesco. These are big investment platforms. If you ever heard of QQQ, the NASDAQ ETF, that's Invesco. Then we have the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, Clearstream, Citi, BNP Paribas, Lloyds Banks. And we ain't talking about the rapper Lloyd Banks. We're talking about Lloyds Bank, Deutsche Banks, Australia and New Zealand Banking Group. That's a lot of collaborations right there. Now, if you want to really get excited, I think this is where the excitement begins. We're excited to announce that Chainlink and the United States Department of Commerce have worked together to bring U.S. government macroeconomic data on-chain from the Bureau of Economic Analysis. These new Chainlink data feeds securely deliver critical information around key U.S. economic data on-chain, including gross domestic product, personal consumption expenditures, price index, and real final sales to private domestic purchasers. That's a whole lot of data from the U.S. government. What does that mean? The U.S. government is purchasing Chainlink services. Bringing U.S. government data on chain unlocks innovative use cases for blockchain markets, such as automated trading strategies, increased composability of tokenized assets, the issuance of new types of digital assets, inflation-linked products, perpetuals futures markets, real-time prediction markets for crowdsourced intelligence, transparent dashboards powered by immutable data, and DeFi protocol risk management based on macroeconomic data. And we know Chainlink is built, its token is built on the Ethereum protocol. We know Ethereum is ironclad in terms of security and immutability. Ain't no change in Ethereum. And we know the Chainlink token is all a part of its ecosystem for pricing for data feeds, the security to making sure everything is transparent, the staking, and even eventually they might have on-chain governance. So here it is, all the list right here. The U.S. government macroeconomic data, the data type and data descriptions. U.S. Department of Commerce via Chainlink, and then this data can be put on to any blockchain that is secure. We're going to talk about one blockchain in a moment that is already a part of this process. So this is big. Chainlink, centerpiece of economic information between the United States and any blockchain. Let's go. Here now, so Chainlink getting all this revenue. This revenue is very important. What are they doing with the revenue? They're doing something very strategic. We see this all the time after, like, let's say a bank or something like that, JP Morgan, have an earnings call. The analysts put out what they think the earnings is going to be. The company put out its guidance of what it will be. And then the earnings happen. They either beat or they miss on terms of revenue and terms of price to earnings per share, right? That's the EPS, earnings per share. A lot of times when they miss, what they will do is give better guidance about all the things they're going to do in the next 3 months to a year. And then they'll also announce buybacks, $25 billion buyback. What does that do? That makes investors happy. Why? Because it's essentially the company is buying the stock. And if you're the holder of this stock, your shares will increase because of the buyback. So let's get back to Chainlink. Reserve update. Today, the Chainlink reserve has accumulated 43,000 and some change link. As of September 11th, the Chainlink reserve holds a total of 280,000 link. And we're going to check this reserve.chain.link out. The Chainlink reserve is designed to support the long-term growth and sustainability of the Chainlink network by accumulating link using off-chain revenue from large enterprises adopting Chainlink and on-chain revenue from service usage. Keyword there, off-chain revenue. U.S. government money, all the different companies they're working with, they take all that revenue, they buy more Chainlink. That helps stabilize and pump the price for the Chainlink holders. That got me excited, right? And you can see Chainlink reserve update for 9/11. Now, if you go click that link, you got the Chainlink reserve. The Chainlink reserve is the strategic reserve of link funded via revenue from various off-chain and on-chain sources. So when they work with a DeFi protocol, remember these 6 protocols right here, getting the CCIP integration, the CRE integration, the data stream, price feeds, proof of reserves, they're paying for this. And them paying for this is part of that revenue that they're using to buy. So the USDC value of the reserve is about 7,280,000 links at an average link cost of $22.44. And with this happening, you can see that if they're having an average cost of $22.44 and link right now at the time of this video is about $24 plus, they're already in profit. They're essentially are going to be averaging up or down whatever happens. Very good for investors. But then you can see the transactions right here. Inflow, September 11th. Inflow, September 4th. It's 43,000. August 28th, roughly 43,000. August 21st, 41,000. August 14th, 44,000. August 7th, 65,000. August 7th, 1 link. And 1 link is probably because they were testing a transaction. So far, that's 1 full month and a half of them purchasing link. This is huge, in my opinion. And what I want y'all to do is check out what Sergey says. He's the founder and CEO of Chainlink, and he's been out in Washington. He's been making waves. But he is talking about the capital markets moving on chain, the world's capital markets. Chainlink is working with governments, central banks, and regulators to help align transactions with existing legal frameworks. Check it out.
Government and central bank officials are basically interested in two things. They're interested in their domestic economy growing through digital assets. They're interested in those digital assets getting purchased by capital from outside their country. They're interested in a growing ecosystem of financial activity using digital assets within their own domestic economy. So they're interested in economic growth. And part of that is domestic economic activity. And part of that is what's called foreign direct investment, the ability for capital to flow from outside of their domestic economy into it. So net new capital flowing in. And the second thing they're interested, quite candidly, is compliance, identity, various methods of assuring control over transactions in a way that they comply with legal requirements. Every central bank, every government basically sees itself as defining and enforcing laws. Those laws in many cases apply to how transactions work. And until the transactions in the blockchain industry can meet the standard of those laws, they won't be allowed to happen. And if they're not allowed to happen, then all the capital locked in the institutional world of that economy, which is the majority of the capital in the country, won't be on a blockchain, which is bad for our industry. If, however, you're able to make blockchain transactions work in a way that they do comply with the laws of that economy and that country and that central bank and that regulator, then the domestic financial growth and economic activity and the foreign direct investment as a result of the digital assets generated in their economy is attractive enough at this point to get them to do the work, to slightly change the laws, slightly redefine the rules, and encourage their domestic banks to launch digital assets, to make a stable coin, to make a tokenized fund, and to make it available for global and domestic consumption.
Sergi breaks it all down, and I wanted to put that out there for y'all to have something to really think about of what's happening with Chainlink, what's happening with data, what's happening with information, and it going on-chain to a blockchain and changing the whole financial and information system. Now, Chainlink just announced, we know, the government economic data on-chain. Government U.S. economic data, Chainlink in the middle, blockchain here. And one of those blockchains that is already doing this is Stellar Lumens. Department of Commerce posts GDP data on Stellar Lumens. Here it is. Let's talk about how Bloomberg says it is reported to Bloomberg. For the first time in the United States government's history, the Department of Commerce has begun putting economic data on the Stellar network. Quarterly GDP data on-chain means that there is now an immutable and publicly auditable record of this economic data. As Bloomberg reports, quote, the Commerce Department's adoption of blockchain to carry some of the most critical and market-moving economic data amounts to a U.S. government seal of approval on a technology that's increasingly being used for trading every day, from money market funds to stocks beyond its origins in cryptocurrency. The Stellar network is a public and permissionless blockchain, so this is critical. Economic data is accessible to anyone. This data is accessible to anyone. Putting this data on-chain is a win for government transparency and will allow anyone to verify it with low fees, quick settlement, and a trusted-based consensus protocol. Stellar is a leading permissionless chain to issue real-world assets, including data. Having this data on-chain also makes real-world data available for DeFi. Bloomberg said it right there, so let that sink in. Department of Commerce posts GDP data on Stellar. Let that sink in. Now, here's another big one. 21X and Stellar open regulated pathways for tokenized capital markets. This is September 10th. 21X, Europe's first fully regulated distributed ledger technology-based trading and settlement system, DLT, distributed ledger technology, which is a blockchain, today announced that launch of 21X on the Stellar network as part of its multi-chain expansion. More chains to come. This collaboration was formally announced at Fireblocks Sparks 25 in Barcelona. Shout out to Barcelona, Spain. Very cool place. An event which brought together leading financial institutions and technology partners, underscoring the growing momentum behind adoption of on-chain finance. This strategic collaboration will enable financial institutions to list and trade tokenized securities on Stellar for the first time on a regulated secondary market venue in the European Union. Tokenized securities in a regulated venue for Europeans. Whew, that's big. This expansion marks the official launch of 21X's multi-chain strategy, positioning the company as a technology-agnostic market infrastructure provider. Essentially, Stellar is in position. And here's another amazing update for Stellar. This is Daniel Dixon, the CEO of Stellar Foundation. This would be a huge step in the right direction. She's talking about Wisdom Tree. So Wisdom Tree leverages the Stellar network to list digital funds that track the stock market. We've been ready for this development. And the post is NASDAQ has filed the SEC with the SEC to tokenize stocks, letting investors trade equities either traditionally or on chain with full shareholder rights. NASDAQ is where most of us do our trading from. If you're on Robinhood, Webull, E-Trade, Schwab, you're probably routed through NASDAQ, okay? And NASDAQ has invested in Kraken. They're trying to get their hands in cryptocurrency as well. NASDAQ, right? NASDAQ seeks nod from U.S. SEC to tokenize stocks. NASDAQ, the U.S. exchange where the tech sector's biggest names list their stocks, is seeking to put stocks on the blockchain, asking the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission on Monday to bless this effort, even as others in the securities world are sprinting towards the same tokenization goal. If everybody's racing towards it, it's probably going to happen. The exchange believes the markets can use tokenization while continuing to provide the benefits of protections of the national market system. NASDAQ contended in its filing, suggesting that the tokenized asset should be traded in regulated markets, namely national security exchanges, alternative trading systems, and at financial industry regulatory authority regulated brokers. The NASDAQ ETF, as I mentioned, QQQ with Invesco, that's a type of NASDAQ ETF, but essentially NASDAQ is the top 100 companies in the United States, excluding financial companies. So you got the NVIDIAs, you got the Apples, you got the Microsofts, you got the Teslas, you got the Broadcoms, you got the Netflix, the Googles, the Amazons, the Metas, and a whole bunch of others. That's good news right there. And Stellar is pushing and want these type of things to happen. And our third chain that we're talking about is Hedera. Why? Hedera has been selected for Wyoming's Frontier Stable Token, the first U.S. state-issued stable token. So essentially, a stable coin produced by the state of Wyoming. I don't know truly why they want it, but they got it. And they're using this Hedera blockchain. So a trusted, fast, compliant stablecoin. The future of public sector payment is here. Imagine that, receiving your paycheck in a state-issued stablecoin called Frontier. That's gangsta. Hedera selected for Wyoming's Frontier stable token, the first U.S. state-issued stable token. So shout out to Wyoming. I know they've got about 1 million people in their population. If they can get a big percentage of them to use it, especially government, that's some big stuff. But let's read this here. Our goal with Frontier is to set a new standard for how states leverage digital assets to better serve the public, said Anthony Apollo, executive director of the Wyoming Stable Token Commission. The commission selected Hedera for candidacy because its technical edge aligns with our commitment to security and to compliance. Stellar works on their council with Google, IBM, Amazon, Microsoft, all the big names, big governments. Everybody's into this, and I understand why they're choosing it. One more quote here. Hedera is already trusted by governments and enterprises moving from pilots to real-world adoption, said Mance Harmon, co-founder of the Hedera and chairman of Hedera Council. Wyoming's selection of Hedera shows how responsible innovation can deliver real-world financial solutions, setting a precedent for other states and ultimately the world to follow. You heard it here first. One more piece of poppin' news for the Hedera fam right here. ArchX launches pool token functionality on Hedera, enabling on-chain multi-asset portfolios. So they cooking, mixing the pot. First up, a tokenized basket. You got Aberdeen Investments, BlackRock, Hedera and BlackRock, and State Street. State Street is one of the largest. BlackRock is one of the largest, and Aberdeen out there in the UK, and legal and general funds. The range of underlying assets can be wholly diverse too, from equity, debt funds, and cryptocurrencies, all in a single transferable token. That's big. This unlocks unprecedented flexibility in portfolio building and fund creation. Essentially, we're heading to a future where you can buy and invest in anything. To close out, there was an interview, Hedera's Isadora, on stablecoins, DeFi, and the global future of crypto regulations. So Hedera sent out someone to discuss with the United Kingdom and talk about their stablecoin approach. She noted that the UK is actually ahead of the US in some aspects. That's positive. Global crypto regulation, DeFi risk, and institutional adoption explored. So essentially, what we see here, like we saw Chainlink do it, Stellar do it, Hedera is doing it. You go up to a government or go up to an institution, you educate them, point out the problems, find their solution, and then promote it to them. You saw it with Wyoming. They say, hey, all these big institutions and enterprises are working with them on their council. We should too. Now they go into the UK and say, hey, listen, we're working with US states. We're working with government. We have the technology. Pull up. So that's what's happening in the news today for cryptocurrency and blockchain adoption. Chainlink with its reserves, with its revenue, with its centerpiece action between data and enterprise blockchains. Then you got Stellar Lumens as one of those blockchains, and Hedera as one of those blockchains dealing with tokenization, real world assets. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know what you want me to cover in the next video. Until the next time, y'all. Peace.
Passive income, gold in my dental. Thank God for my mental. Investor fundamentals. Told my girl it was simple.